to Mike to start. Mike, when you're ready.
Thank you, Alan. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to session 69 of our Small Business Town Hall meeting. And today our case force, where we have attorneys along with us to help answer any of your financial and legal pandemic-related questions. I'm also joined today, so we're at the NorCal SBDC Finance Center, and we're supported by the SBA and the state of California, and we provide no-fee advising for small businesses. And with the Finance Center, we specialize in getting loans for small businesses. Our director, Scott Rogalski, who's not here with us today, our Associate Director, Sunita Maharaj, who's joining us, and myself, Mike Ballstead, I'm a regional advisor, and Kyle Roseman, I haven't seen him yet. He may or may not be on the call.
Oh yeah, I'm right here.
Hi, Kyle, sorry about that.
Good morning.
Good morning. So foot and mouth, let me remove that really quick. All right, so our agenda for today, we're gonna have a disclaimer. Then we're gonna cover the parameters for the COVID and the fire-related economic injury disaster loans. We'll cover the application's required documents for forgiveness of the PPP. We're gonna have an update on the California Rebuilding Fund, which is a California-based fund providing loans for business owners as we get into this next chapter of recovery. We'll have some staff from SBA available to give some updates on programs. Alan will be sharing with us some upcoming webinars, and then we'll be taking questions from all of the attendees for attorneys, Kyle, Sunita, and myself to hopefully help you with anything that's come up over the last couple of weeks. So a disclaimer is this information was correct when the presentation was created. Things are changing all the time. At the present, you can still apply for the economic injury disaster loan on the SBA website, and please don't hesitate to do so. So we're still accepting applications for most businesses, as well as a number of the nonprofit, organized under nonprofit. The advance, however, is no longer available. And the PPP loans, you can no longer apply for. Those closed as of August 8th of 2020. So going over for the parameters of the loans, many of you already may have been familiar with the economic injury disaster loans related to COVID. And those terms, we have a 3.75% rate or 2.75% for nonprofits. And those are for a term of 30 years. The difference for the fire-related loans is that for-profit businesses have a rate of 3%, still 2.75% for nonprofits. And again, those terms are up to 30 years. On the COVID-related
Mike, this is Carrie.
It's Carrie.
Sorry to interrupt. For the fire loans, it's anywhere between 3% and 6%, depending on that small business's access to capital elsewhere. Just a little clarification there.
Thank you so much. I'm taking a note so that we make sure that gets updated in the slide deck. So that's based on access, if they've got other access to capital?
Yes, credit elsewhere.
Okay. All right, excellent. Thank you for interjecting. I appreciate that.
You're welcome, Mike.
On the COVID-related loans, we have payment deferral of 11 months. Now, interest does accrue during that time, but you won't have payment due until after 11 months. Whereas with the fire-related loans, the initial period is 6 months before a payment is due. With the COVID-related loans, you've got collateral required for loans of $25,000 and above. And if the loans are over $200,000, it does require a personal guarantee. On the fire-related loans, it's the same. And with regard to personal guarantee, it's for any owners that hold more than 20% of the business. Neither of the loans are forgivable. These are loans that you will have to pay, although the interest rates are obviously very low related to other commercial loans. How the money is allowed to be spent with the COVID-related loans, all operating expenses, cost of goods sold, and interest on your debt payments. However, not principal. You're not going to be able to pay off principal or prepaid debt with that money. On the fire, it's working capital to cover all ordinary business and operating expenses. Now, again, you're not allowed to spend any of this money for the COVID-related loans for anything that would be to expand or grow your business. You're not going to be able to pay off full amount of loans, and you're not able to pay tax liens. also indicated under the fire loans is you're not able to refi long-term loans with that money. And with that, we're going to go ahead and go to Sunita to talk about PPP and the loan forgiveness.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. I know in weeks past, we have gone over this quite a few times. I saw that there is a lot of questions on when should you apply for PPP forgiveness, because some lenders are still holding off on accepting applications. Reason being, I'm assuming, I don't know for sure, but this is what the word on the street is that we're all hoping that there might be another addendum letting people with certain loan amounts be forgiven automatically, or they have to apply for forgiveness, but that amount is automatic. We still don't know. I say get your paperwork together, no matter what your loan amount is, and get ready for this, because once they've decided on what that loan amount is or is not, if they're not going to go that way, then you should start applying for forgiveness. If your bank is already equipped to do so, then you may want to look into doing that right away. Or if you want to hold off, it is really up to you, because at this point in time, we don't know. We used to say before, one of our disclaimers is things are changing all the time. They still are, but not as fast as they used to. So I just wanted to answer that question for you. And I'm sorry we don't have a solid answer. Yes, no, it is always kind of in the gray, maybe, but you can get ready for it. So one of the things that you can do is you can get ready to complete the EZ app. And this is what's going on with the EZ app. If you are a sole prop, independent contractor, self-employed individual, you can complete this. Or, so there's 3 different ways that you can complete the EZ app. Or you did not reduce annual salary or wages of any employee by more than 25% during the covered period between January 1st and March 31st. With that, there's an and to that, and did not reduce the number of employees or the average paid hours of employees between January 1st and the end of your covered period. No, it's a little confusing. Even when I read it, it's a little confusing. This is coming straight from the application itself. So I just copied it and I just put it on this slide, and I just took bits and pieces of those applications. So that way you know exactly what the verbiage is on these apps. But it also says if you can ignore if the reductions arose from an inability to rehire individuals who were employees between February 15th, if the borrower, you, was not able to hire the same qualified people. So there's caveats to that, and we can walk you through it, because it is definitely confusing on if this is going to be something you can or cannot do. Next slide, please, Mike. So this is the 3rd way that you can use the EZ app. Did not reduce annual salary or wages of an employee by more than 25% during the covered period. It's still the same verbiage as number 2, but the caveat to this, the and on this one, is say you were a restaurant, you were unable to open up due to the regulations, you fall into this category. Or there's other regulations. Perhaps you were not able to open up because the Secretary of Health and Human Services directives. There's all these different ways, and we can walk you through this. We can kind of figure out with you if you qualify for the EZ app. You want to go to the next slide, please, Mike? Thank you. There's also a 3rd type of application, which is the simplified application. All entities can use this application if you receive $50,000 or less. I had a question yesterday. Somebody asked me, can you use this application if you received $50,050? The way the application reads is $50,000 or less. I know it's only $50 more, but it's 50,000. That is the maximum at this point in time. So on this one, on this application, it's very easy. All you have to do is you just have to certify, you just have to sign next to these several questions. Did you use the funds for eligible purposes? And it's the 60-40. Did you use at least 60% of the loan funds towards paying your employees? Did you use a minimum 40% to pay all other eligible categories? And we can walk through with you one-on-one on that too, if we need to get more specific on that. And you can let us know also if you want us to go backwards and specify the use of funds. We can always put a slide in here to let you know that if it's still shaky. I know it's been a while. Some information has changed so much that it's difficult to remember what is or isn't correct right now. This one also asks how many employees you had, not full-time employees, but just employees you had at the time of your application for PPP. And then for the forgiveness, how many employees you had at the time of forgiveness that you're applying for forgiveness. Next, please, Mike. Thank you. So the documents that you should be keeping, anything related to payroll and related costs, anything. I don't know what kind of bookkeeping that you have, but anything that you have that you would normally send to the state in regards to taxes or anything like that, keep all of those documents. I think keep more than what you think you need, just in case. Put everything in a folder. You can print stuff out, have a folder on your desktop. This is something, best practices that we've been talking about for a very, very long time. Employee benefits, utilities, rent, mortgage, and interest, the mortgage interest. If that's what you use the funds for. Again, you can use 100% towards payroll, minimum of 60, maximum of 40 for the rest. Where does this all lie? Where can you find this information? You can go to SBA, or you can go to home.treasury.gov for these documents. We can also walk you through it and get these documents for you, but all of these documents and the most up-to-date documents lie here. Sometimes they may change, so to give you links to it, it may go to the old document. So that's why we just say to go to the homepage and find the most current documents for the 3 applications. If there's 3 applications, there is the first application, the EZ application, and then the simplified application. If you're not sure where you fall, just give us a call, 833-ASKSBDC, and we'll help walk you through that. Next, please. PPP. As long as you submit your forgiveness application within 10 months of your covered period, you are not required to pay a payment until SBA determines if a portion of that or all of it is now a loan and not forgivable. So just keep that in mind. A lot of people think their covered period's over, they need to start applying for PPP forgiveness. You have 10 months. So if today my forgiveness, I use the last bit of my PPP, it's my 24th week, I have 10 months from now to apply. If you want to wait 10 months, that's fine. You don't have to wait 10 months. You can apply next month if you have all your documents in order. The other part to this is the application does state that it expires on 10/31. That is not correct. It expires on 12/31, so December 31st. So you're okay to use those documents. Anything that has expiration dates on it already, there were some that said June. Now there's some that say October. It is extended until December 31st as of right now. We don't know if it's going to get extended again. We'll let you know as soon as we do find out. Next, please, and I think it's back to you, Mike.
Yes,
Awesome.
it is. Thank you so much, Sunita. So we're going to talk about the California Rebuilding Fund. We did discuss this back on the 26th. This is actually a new program that's being launched, a public-private partnership here in California. So you can see the website there, connecttocapital.com. That is actually where they'll be hosting the site. It's not the actual official site for the fund. So the It's to be determined when they'll start accepting pre-qual applications online. And you'll be putting your information into the portal and it will match you with the lender. So these lenders that you'll be matched up with, many of them are community developed financial institutions. So they'll match you up with them. Most of them are going to be in your geographic area. And the lender then will reach out to you and request documents required to move forward. And most likely it's going to be a complete loan package. So it would be similar to those of you who applied for EIDL before on the portal, and you eventually had a loan officer from SBA reach out to you, although they think that this is going to be staffed a little differently. And so the responses we're hoping will be a little more, little quicker, because you won't have the volume of loans that there were under EIDL. With that, they're looking at basically you're looking at businesses that have had less than 2.5 million in revenue and have 50 or fewer employees is part of the guidelines they'll be looking at. Next, we'll have some SBA updates presented by Carrie Ellenwood, who's a Deputy District Director, Janelle Green, who's an Economic Development Specialist, and David Castaneda. And welcome you three, and welcome to our show today.
Thank you, Mike. It's good to be here. Hello, everyone. We're happy to join you this morning. I'll just give you some updates about what's going on in SBA. This is National Veteran Small Business Week, so please take some time and join the webinars for veterans. If you're a veteran, they have a lot of good resources to help your small business. You can find out more about those webinars at sba.gov on the veterans section there. An update on our lending for last fiscal year in our Sacramento district office. Our lending partners made 49,798 Paycheck Protection Program loans for $5 billion to small businesses across our district, which was an average loan size of $106,000. So this just is a big thank you to our lending partners for making those efforts for our small businesses. Also during FY20, the Sacramento District Office lending partners made 576 7A loans totaling $415 million to small businesses, and the 504 loan program had 138 loans for $119 million. And our microlender here in the district made 32 microloans for $510,000. So our lending partners have been working really hard to support our small businesses here in the Sacramento district. And just a quick update on the EIDL loan program. They are still processing those loans, as was mentioned earlier. If you have been denied an economic injury disaster loan, you can email them at pdcrecons@sba.gov for reconsideration on that loan. Typically, if they do, they're going to send you a request for additional information on the program that they're going to require from you. So that is my update for today.
All right, thank you, Carrie. And this is David Castaneda, Economic Development Specialist with the SBA office here in Sacramento. I'm so happy that we have this expertise at our SBDC Finance Center that is giving you this webinar today. But also, I want to remind you or let you know that the SBA also has our other resource partners, and combined they help the entrepreneurs and small businesses with, again, the free consulting services and webinars. So what I'll do on the chat box, I'll put on the SBA Sacramento District Office calendar of events website that highlights the SBDC Women's Business Center SCORE and Veteran Business Outreach Center webinars. And I will also put the San Francisco District calendar of events on there too, so you can look at all of Northern California resources. Also, tomorrow, the SBA Sacramento District Office is pleased to announce the launch of the SBA Q&A Forum. It's going to be a weekly webinar series for small businesses interested in SBA programs and resources. So we'll have that starting tomorrow, and that starts at 10 a.m. So if you're interested in that, again, go to the sba.gov and you can Well, I'll put the link on there for the Sacramento District Office so you can register for that if you're interested. And that's all I have for today. Thank you much, and back to you.
Thank you, David. Okay, and Alan, we've got some calendar items here for you.
Yeah, we've got so starting tomorrow, we've got what we're calling our startup series, which may not be of that specific interest to the folks who are on today's call, because you're mostly existing businesses. But we've got a plan on starting up your business. So what you need to do to start up a new business. Also, next week we have a planning session, so a webinar on how to plan your business. And this could be of interest, even if you've got an existing business, because the tool we're going to be showing and showcasing on the Lean Planning Canvas, it's really great to look about how you might want to pivot your business as well. The session the week after is on financing, and we'll be focusing, actually our very own Kyle, who's here today, will be presenting that. And that's focusing on for how to get basic funding for startups or expansion side funding. So the 7A and 504 loans that Carrie was talking about recently. But as well as those, let's stay back on that slide, Mike. As well as those, we also have a whole bunch of stuff being done at the local level. So all of our centers are busy doing lots and lots of webinars. And we are also about to, if I can pull the information on it, I'm just trying to pull it up here. We also have, we're being part of something that the whole of the Northern California, or the whole of the California SBA, SBDC regions are doing, which is an event on getting a digital boot camp. So I'll grab the information on that, and we'll put information on that together and put it into the chat. So I'll grab the registration information on that. But that's a series of sessions on how to get your business online. Our ones will be presented by Shane Barker, but it's actually being done across the Northern California region. So anybody from, you can register for any of the different cohorts. There's 5 different sessions, depending on which day of the week you want to see. As far as Wednesdays go, next Wednesday is, of course, Veterans Day. So SBA will be, the Northern California Lead Center will be shut in honor of Veterans Day, although we will be doing that planning webinar later in the afternoon. So there will be we won't be having one of these next week. Week after that will be, again, a repeat of this week. So the Case Attorney Coalition. So we'll have the updates and our case colleagues. And then the weekend after that is it's the day before Thanksgiving, so we won't be having an event that day. So that's what's coming up. But have a look on the SBDC events network calendar and see all the different things that are going on there. Back to you, Mike.
Thank you so much, Alan. All right, so we're to our Q&A section with our Case Force Attorney Coalition. These office hours are intended to be a resource for small businesses with fewer than 25 employees and nonprofits to learn information about various resources and legal issues relevant to the COVID-19 pandemic. They are not intended to offer legal advice, and the leaders of the office hours are not able to represent office hour participants as their attorneys. This session is intended to address issues related to the pandemic, and panelists are not able to comment on general non-pandemic related issues. And with that, Sunita, did you mention that Brett had some things that you needed to discuss?
Sorry, it's going to be Mark is going to do a small presentation, and so will Heidi right after that. If anyone has questions for our attorneys, can you please put it in the Q&A and then just put on beside it or very beginning attorney question. We have left some questions here because we believe they're attorney related to answer right after they have presented.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for having me on, everybody. I'll just take a few minutes of your time here. And again, my name is Mark Dillman from United Policyholders. We are a nonprofit 501c3 organization. Our executive director and co-founder, Amy Bach, founded UP almost 30 years ago now, and we serve as an information resource and a voice for insurance consumers in California and nationwide. So one of the initiatives that we're working on right now is the COVID Loss Recovery Initiative, and we are specifically focusing on business interruption losses. What we've done kind of from an overview is assembled some top industry experts to, one, collect resources, and two, advocate in the courts on behalf of business owners like yourselves. So to check out our COVID library and resources that I'll be referencing, please visit uphelp.org/COVID, uphelp.org/COVID. And so I just want to run through a few, an overview and a few considerations based on the landscape right now of where business interruption insurance rests. And I sound like a broken record. I've been saying it for the past couple of months, and I'm probably, unfortunately, going to be saying it for the next couple of months moving forward. It is uncertain as to what business interruption claims will be paid. The insurance industry from the beginning created this narrative that there is no coverage, and we're here to say that this is not necessarily true, and to be skeptical of blanket statements that you may have heard from your insurer or even agents or brokers that are saying that there is no coverage across the board, and stay informed, because there are cases that are different. It is an ongoing process. I can't stress that enough. It is an ongoing process, and we are unsure. So the scorecard, we call it a scorecard, but what we're looking at in the courts, how are judges looking at these business interruption policies, and are they allowing the cases to go forward? And as of right now, what we've seen and what's come across, our emails, our desk, is about 50 cases that have seen a motion to dismiss, and what's been happening are just under a third of those cases have been allowed to move forward. So we call those, policyholder wins in that case. Just under a third of those have been dismissed, but allowed to amend. And then the rest have been dismissed. The last, a little bit more than a third, have been dismissed. So we are referring to those as, policyholder losses, but it's still very uncertain as to wins and losses. Many of the strongest cases haven't been filed or heard yet. And we did see I think it was 2 weeks ago now, out of North Carolina, a judge that did grant coverage for government order shutdown. So it's still uncertain, and California has seen a lot of cases, but some of the best are still to come. So next steps for you all, if you haven't done so already, cannot stress this enough. Every situation is different. Every policy is different. Find out if you have business interruption coverage. So step one to doing that is requesting a full copy of your policy with all endorsements. If you can get a searchable PDF, do so. That's going to be your best friend to search the policy to see if you even have this coverage. Search for specific terms. The fastest way, again, is that searchable PDF. Look for business interruption, but also search for business income. And that's important because a lot of small businesses have policies that are written a little bit differently and refer to the coverage as business income. So it may be within the meat of your policy, or it may be added at the end as an endorsement, which is why it's so important to get the full copy of your policy. Many small businesses do not have business interruption or business income coverage, but many do. So again, please request your policy if you haven't done so already, and check. So step three that we say is search for a virus exclusion. The same thing, if you can get a searchable PDF, search for the terms, not only virus, but also pathogen, contaminant. Even if you do find a virus exclusion in your policy, I think it's somewhere around 80 to 83% do have some form. Even if you have an exclusion, this does not necessarily mean you do not have coverage. I'm not saying you do or you do not, but some of these cases are undetermined. So it's important to stay informed and find out what you actually have. Again, there are many types of the virus exclusion, and courts are treating them differently. Even the same virus exclusion is being treated differently in different jurisdictions. And fourth, not only, or note the other related coverages that you may have. So not only do you have business income, do you have a virus exclusion, but look for those coverages such as extra expense, look for civil authority coverage, look for communicable disease extensions, which may grant a certain dollar amount, often $50,000 specifically for this type of situation. So the two largest hurdles that we're seeing right now in this landscape are a requirement of direct physical loss of or damage to property. Again, different courts are treating this differently. We've seen some saying a government order constitutes getting over this hurdle. We've seen some say that the virus itself has not. So that's hurdle number one. And the big hurdle number two is the virus exclusion. So like I mentioned, about 83% of small business policies have the exclusion, but it's an unresolved issue. Now there are other hurdles, but those are the big two. So to wrap up, just a couple of points, what you can do in the meantime while you're requesting that policy, whether you've checked, whether you do or don't have business interruption coverage, is put your insurer on notice. Even if the loss may not be covered, it's important that your insurer knows that you may submit a claim, especially once we find out if the legal landscape has gotten a little bit more clear as to what certain states are going to do. And next, compile relevant information and track your damages. This means government orders that apply to you at the state, at the county, at any level, accounting documents, business forecasts, and document and diary all business decisions leading up to whatever closure or slowdown that you may have. This is important not only for insurance, but may be necessary if funding from other sources becomes available later through government programs. So I can't stress that enough. Please collect documents, collect the orders, the accounting documents, and actually take the time to look at business forecasts. Could save you time and give you access to funds in the future. So stay up to date at uphelp.org/COVID, like I said, and thank you again for having me on and for the few minutes to talk about what we're doing here.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mark. And now we're being joined by Heidi, who also has a short presentation for us. Welcome, Heidi.
Thanks, Mike. Hello, everyone. My name is Heidi Kim. I'm the California staff attorney for a nonprofit called Start Small, Think Big. We provide free legal, marketing, and financial services for 1 year if you are eligible for small businesses. The eligibility requirements are based on household income as well as your business's annual revenue. Specifically with regard to our legal services, we provide services in the area of employment law regarding to workers. We provide contract review and drafting, any areas of commercial lease, whether it's review of a contract or need negotiations. We provide transactional legal services. We do not do any active dispute representation. I will put in the chat box our link, and you can take a look further. Today, I'm here to discuss doing business online. Now, when COVID hit, a lot of businesses who did not have an active online presence quickly have pivoted to try to have a big online presence, whether it's directly selling your product or service online or even just marketing. And there are really certain legal issues to flag and to be aware of when you are doing business online. And primarily, I'm here to talk about terms of use and privacy policy. So for those unfamiliar, a terms of use is an agreement basically that you have with anyone who visits your website, because even though you may be operating in the state of California, anyone in the United States can access that website, and various states have different laws on doing business online. Now, obviously, you want to be compliant with California laws. In California, we have a law called CCPA, which is the California Consumer Privacy Act. It governs, doing business online. Now, for all the participants here today, the CCPA does not necessarily apply to you because it has certain threshold limits of having a database of 50,000 users from California and the like. But nevertheless, it's still important to be aware of these issues. And when I say terms of use, what I mean is outlining, just having some kind of statement on your website that that makes clear, number one, limiting any type of liability to arise from use of your website. And use meaning if your website does anything more than just being an informational, whether it's having a box where people can contact you for questions, or having direct sales where they put their credit card information and their personal information in, it really is a best practice to have a terms of use on your website. And it's just language. And, people can find this template language online. And what I've seen a lot of small business owners do is copy and paste from something they found online. We really discourage against that because your terms of use and privacy policy should be tailored to the kind of business that you have. It should also be tailored to the kind of interaction that users can have with your website. Terms of use also limits, whether if it's children coming onto your site. There are national laws, the Online Children's Act, that kind of create certain liabilities. And so having language on your website that disclaims this website is not for children under the age of 13, can protect you from certain information, certain liabilities. I think with regards to a terms of use, I think what you really want to do is there's always an issue of acceptance with users, and you do want to have language on your website about, using this website or viewing this website constitutes acceptance of the terms. Now, privacy policy is kind of a companion of a terms of use. And what a privacy policy does is outline on your website, it's language that outlines how you use, store, collect any consumer data. So for example, even having a contact us box, most websites, you put in your email address, your name, your question, and you hit submit. Now, there are legal requirements for business owners to, in the way that they store people's personal information, and personal information can span from name, email, phone number, to, credit kind information. And so it's really vital that you spell out specifically on your website kind of how you store that data, how you share or not share that data. Again, I think people will copy and paste privacy policy language. It's really imperative that your privacy policy is tailored to the way you use and store your customers' information. I won't go into details now. If you would like help kind of crafting a privacy policy or terms of use specific to your business, that's legal services that my organization helps with. So I did put in that application link there, and I'll hand it back to Mike.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Heidi. And so with that generous offer of their information and services, we hope that you'll take them up on it if you have the need. And in the meantime, we're all here available today to answer any questions that you might have. And we have been answering them along the way. And at present, we just simply have 2 in the queue. And the first one I would like to ask Heidi, and it says, question regarding LLC registration in California. Are any fees related to registering as an LLC for the first time in California being waived this year or next? If yes, can you direct us to a site or a source with more detail?
Absolutely. So yes, the answer to that question is yes. Come January 1st, 2020, 21. There's a lot of twos in there. California is waiving the $800 tax on the LLC. So it's a great time to incorporate. And if you need any assistance, that's exactly what, my organization does. Entity selection, our general position is that it's really advisable to incorporate as an LLC for protecting your personal assets, as well as, legitimizing your business in the eyes of others when you're doing business with other vendors and so on. So yes. And then as far as sources, let me pull it up and I can put that in the chat box right now.
Well, thank you, Heidi. Okay. And my next question here would be for anybody still on the line with SBA. And it says, I received an email from the SBA requesting for me to fill out a 3501 and 3502 and to provide a copy of my driver's license. One, an email granting the SBA permission to change the company legal name from your DBA to your individual name. And two, that your proof that your business is a DBA, such as filed copy with personal taxes. And then three, paper application 3501 and 3502. And I think what they're wanting to know is why they would have received that.
Hi, Mike. This is Carrie from SBA. That's a very good question. That would be the application form as well as some additional information. I would caution them to first check and make sure it is actually from SBA.gov email address. There's a lot of attempts to get people's personal information to commit fraud with their identity. So please verify that. I'm not aware of any reason why they would be sending you those paper copies unless you requested them. So I would be very cautious with that. And if you have questions, you can call the 800 number for the disaster organization and ask them, why are you receiving this? Because that just doesn't sound like our normal process in the disaster operations. And I'm trying to find that number for you.
I have it.
Oh, great. Thank you.
You're welcome, Carrie. It's 800-659-2955.
Thank you, Sunita.
You're welcome, Carrie.
Thank you. And so Lynette, hopefully that's of help to you. We'll make sure that that number also gets shared in the chat box.
Mike, she's also put in the fact that it was the person who emailed her was has an SBA.gov email address. So the information that is in the Q&A box.
Let's see here.
So I would not know why they would be asking her for the paper copy unless she, for some reason, couldn't fill it out online. But again, I would have her call that 800 number to speak with someone there to find out why she received this, unless, she wanted to do it via paper, not online.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, our
You're
next call is from Mark, and this is from Tim. And it says, given the significant potential cost of mounting a claim against large insurance companies, are there any class action initiatives against carriers for relief on the pandemic exclusion? Seems daunting for small businesses to try and sue these financial giants. Also, do you know of any carriers who might consider a buyback of the pandemic exclusion? There will be other pandemic type issues in the future.
Thank you. So the short answer is yes. There are quite a few, and I understand definitely being a small business, the daunting task of doing it alone. The last numbers that I've seen nationwide were that there were about just under 1,000 allegations that were brought without a class. There were about 175 or so federal class actions, about 80 at the state level, and about 120 at both state and the federal level. So yes, they are ongoing. I'm sure there will be more that are moving forward. you kind of have the benefit of seeing how those play out in each jurisdiction and in each state. But no, I have not heard about insurers buying back the exclusion. But what we have seen is, moving forward based on wins and losses in different places may or may not make legislation more or less likely that may provide alternative sources of well, I'm not sure to what extent, but other sources of money flowing in. So the answer to the second part is no, I have not. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but yes, class actions do exist.
Thank you so much, Mark. And I've got a question here from Elizabeth, as it says, if employees that are on unemployment due to COVID-19 and were advised that should work come back, they would be called back, but work has not come back and it's going on 5 months. So should she just leave her employees in limbo?
So Elizabeth, I think the answer to that question depends on what you foresee in the long term for your business. There are a number of options you can consider, right? They're basically currently on furlough. You could just, you could just leave them in limbo. I think if, in talking to certain business owners, I think people want to kind of trim their staff. Yes, you can do a layoff. Of course, you'd have to carefully review any agreements you have, if you do have any agreements with your workers, or just any policies, worker policies that you have. If there are any, union issues at play, then that's a different story. But you'd want to make sure that you review any policies or agreements, and if okay, then a layoff is permissible in these situations. I think it would just depend on your personal goals for the upcoming year.
Thank you, Heidi, very much. And so with that, we've answered a lot of questions today, but we are at about 20 minutes after, and we have currently no open questions. So if you've got any questions you've been dying to ask and just haven't had the nerve to yet, just please put them in there. And so we can, still field any questions you may have before we go into a couple of weeks that you won't have access via the call. You are welcome, Leanne. Thanks for the message. Okay, so can you address the tax consequences of the forgiveness of the PPP? Well, with that, as my understanding, and Cindy, I'd like your confirmation on that too, is that the PPP forgiveness would not be considered the same as what people would see in taxable when a debt has been forgiven. However, you would want to talk to your tax professional about this, particularly as it relates to how you would normally look at your deductions for business-related expenses on which you spent those PPP funds.
That's correct. From what we've heard in the past, and of course, we are not tax attorneys. We are not, I'm not a, CPA, but from what we have heard so far, that information, you can't double dip. So you can't get a grant and then also put it on your taxes as expenses paid. But if you use your PPP funds as income, then of course you would have to pay taxes for that income. So there are different things, Brian, that unfortunately we can't give you specific answers to at this point in time. And there might be some additional information from the IRS before the next time taxes are due in regards to this, because of course this has never happened before. So I'm sure we're going to get more information out.
And Sunita, this is Carrie from the SBA, and I do know that the IRS is putting updates on their webpage. So if you go to irs.gov, you can find additional information there about how they're looking at that in terms of tax treatment. And of course, as you said, check with your personal tax attorney or your CPA. I'm neither one of those, but I do know the IRS is putting information on their website. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
All right, and so I do have one for Heidi because it does deal with firing. It says verifying that employee fired for cause will not reduce loan forgiveness under PPP.
Okay, so I do not have PPP expertise. The answer to that question is I do not know.
And what I would say, Lori, is we'll capture this question. I do want to go look at on June 5th when the new act came out around simplifying forgiveness. There were a couple of exceptions that were included. There were 3. I'll be glad to go back and review those and we can get an answer for that to you. Alan, if you could capture that question for us, that would be great.
Sure.
And that was Lori's question there. Okay, and I've got another one for Heidi. This is Natalia is asking, could terms of use and privacy policy be combined, or should we have them separately presented on the website?
Sure. I mean, I think as long as they are clearly delineated, I think you can have them, if you want to say combined, put in a separate, in a section that's together. But I do think you want to make it clear that this is your terms of use language, and then you also want to make it clear this is our privacy policy language. But in terms of physically where they're located on your website, yeah, that having them in the same spot is totally fine. Hope that answers your question.
However, someone did post one in the chat. Remember, please do put the questions in the Q&A tab. Let's see, from Hugh. Okay, so we have a question, and anybody who might be able to answer this, maybe Carrie. This says, will you have a program on the Federal Reserve's small business lending program now with the lower loan amounts that makes it easier for small businesses to attain? Do we have recommendations about accessing this program in the meantime? Personally, I don't have any information on that yet. Does anyone else?
Hi there, this is Carrie again. No, I don't have any additional information on that. I've heard about it, but again, I don't as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hugh, we'll capture this as well, and I'll look into that for you, and we'll look to get you that information within the next day or two. Okay, excellent. All right, and with that, it looks like we have answered all of the outstanding questions. We've got about 5 more minutes if anybody has anything else they'd like to ask.
So I just wanted to let people know, I put it in the chat a while ago. So as Heidi was talking about the things you need to do when you're doing business online, one of her colleagues did a great webinar for us on that very topic back in, I think it was August. And so I put a link into that, the recording of that. So if you want more details about things like, terms of use and privacy policy, went a great amount of detail on that. So the recording's there and the link to it is in the chat.
Excellent. And Carrie, I do have I did have one question just come up on the fire EIDL loan, and they're wanting to know if there are any special qualifications for that loan.
Well, I think you need to be in the fire declared area, one of those counties. And then I'm not sure if they're asking about if there's a credit requirement or if they could clarify that for me, I'd be happy to try and give them a better answer.
Excellent, thank you. And as they're doing that, I'm going to look to this next question here. Actually, there was one that was already, that one's already taken care of. So Srini, if you have, if you could go ahead and clarify your question on what specific area you were looking at, whether it was credit or otherwise, we'd be glad to get you a more specific answer. It says, okay, when are reconsideration loan processes going to be completed? And Dolene, all I can say to that is it's ongoing as people continue to submit a request for, because the loans are still under consideration. So as people are submitting their requests for consideration, you know, those are being reviewed.
Yes, and there are quite a few, there are millions of small businesses, as I mentioned, that have applied for these loans, and quite a few, for a variety of reasons, have to go through that reconsideration process, and it does take some time. So just be a little patient with them, and then, you know, you can always call the 800 number or send an email to that pdcrecons@sba.gov, and they will get back to you. But there is a bit of a time lag from the time that you submit the required information as to when they get back to you.
All right, Carrie, thank you so much for that. And with that, we are, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just said you're welcome.
Thank you. All right, so with that, we are at 11:30, and it appears that we've cleared the question queue. Again, we want to thank everybody for attending and hope that we were of help today, and we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. And thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.